Welcome to How to Become a Production SQL Database Administrator. My name is Raphael. In the previous videos, we've been looking at log shipping, and we looked at the setting up log shipping, monitoring, failing, and so on. In this video now, we're going to continue with the concept of how to monitor log shipping once you've set it up. So this is an important aspect of SQL Database Administrator. Even though you've set it up, it's obviously critical that you monitor and keep a proactive step against log shipping just in case you get some errors. And these next few methods I'm going to be illustrating to you will demonstrate that to you how you can monitor log shipping. So there are several methods, as I mentioned, to monitor log shipping, and they are as follows. You can monitor log shipping via SQL Server reports, through store procedures, or through tables in the MSD database, the system database, and then obviously looking at the SQL error log itself. So let's go one by one and see how we access these methods. So for SQL Server reports, it's a GUI interface, and it's a great tool also to view the reports. So to access the SQL Server reports, let's hop on to our servers. Let's go to a server 1. And again, always make sure that your DC is on, server 1 is on, and server 2 on. So the way you want to do that, let's go to server 1. And the way you want to do it is right-click the server name, go to reports, go to standard reports, and at the bottom you'll see transaction log shipping status. And if you click on that, it'll retrieve data. Now obviously you can see this here. So since we're on server 1, and this obviously is going to be where we have the backups. So as you can see, this report shows the status of log shipping configuration for which the server instance is a primary, secondary monitor, or monitor. Obviously in this case it's a primary database right here. So as you can see, that we can see the backup information here, when it was last backed up, the threshold for 60 minutes that we set, and whether the alert is enabled or not. And obviously we're talking about the status of the databases. In this case, test server 1 is fine. Obviously you won't see any information here, because when we go to the server 2, that will get information here. So the important things obviously to note here is look at the last backup file and look at the number, and we've gone over that through T-SQL, but this will give you a graphical GUI to look at. And if we have any issues here where they don't sync, then you may want to look at that. So this is a great graphical interpretation of what log shipping is on the primary database. Now we can do that exactly on server 2. So let's go to server 2 and note the information here is about backup and not about copy and restore. So now we're going to go to server 2 and do exactly the same. Right-click the server, go to reports, standard reports, and at the bottom, transaction log shipping status report. And now you can see it's obviously we're connected to server 2. So you'll see here now, obviously we're getting information for server 2, where the process copies and then restores the transactional logs. And then obviously you can talk about the last latency file was 15 minutes, the threshold is 45, and obviously the alert is enabled. If you scroll to the right a little more, you can see when it was last copied, what transactional log was copied, and then obviously what was last restored. So again, if this don't sync, then we can take measures here. So this again is a great illustration of how to look at one of the methods of looking at log shipping also. So let's go back to our reports. Now, the other one obviously is through running various store procedures. So now this is a store procedure here at sp_help_log shipping under monitor. This obviously gives us the entire configuration of this shipping status. So let's go on our primary server and execute these two, and let's see what result sets we get. And obviously you'll note here it says provide the parameter server and the server name. So let's look at that here. And the server name actually is here, which is the test database. So let's look at it on the server 1 if we go here. So obviously now if I execute this store procedures using master database, because you need to be the master database for this store procedure, and if you execute it, it gives us a slew of information of our servers involved in log shipping. As you can see, the status of the status here is a 1 and 0, or it's primary here. It tells you the server type, which database is log shipped or not. In this case, obviously we're looking at this one, and obviously this is the ones we've revisited again, the last backup file, because obviously this is primary server, so it gives you the number 40,000 here, and obviously it gives you a tremendous amount of information of what we need to know regarding the primary information, and I encourage you to go through that. And obviously here, obviously this was the one of the primary servers when I was testing it earlier, so it gives information about that also. So now if I go to this particular store procedure, and here I said make sure you provide 2 parameters. So if you were to execute this, it's going to give an error saying that the parameters are missing, and the parameters that are missing obviously is the server name and the database name, in this case server 1 and test. So you may have to adjust that in your environment, in a production environment. So let's highlight this and copy it and execute it. And obviously it's going to give you the, again, the primary server name, the database. Again, it'll give you the last time it was backed up the file, 40,000, which we said, and that's fine. And it gives you also the date and time when it was last backed up. And so this is important information here. If we continue here, you'll see that this is where, actually, let me just do this. Notice this, we'll go here and let's execute it on this side. This is now the secondary server. So obviously you get the last copied and last restored. So last copied obviously was 40, but it hasn't been restored, as you can see. So you may want to look at that as to, hey, there's a disparity between the last copied, which was 40,000, and in the server here, it was 40,000. But obviously there's another one that's being backed up but not copied yet. So you may want to look into that kind of a possibility also. But that's just a question of timing. Here, if we execute this against the secondary, we'll get information again about this secondary server here. And again, we've gone through this kind of before, but you'll get an idea of when was the last date restored, when was it copied, and so on. So this is informational. All these things that we're doing is giving us informational to make sure we can monitor the database. And why do we need to monitor it, and what is it that we're monitoring? Remember, there's a 3-step process in log shipping. It's from the primary, the log ship is backed up. Then the secondary step is to copy that transaction log to the secondary server. Then the third and final step is to restore that. So obviously if there's an issue of latency, then we have to resolve that. And what does latency mean? Well, latency in a nutshell means that it's dragging behind, if you will, where the backup jobs may take 30, 40 minutes, and the copy may take an hour, and then the restore may take a longer than that. And it's not basically synced with the primary and the secondary databases, because the jobs that are executing, the 3 primary jobs, backup, copy, and paste, are not in sync with each other. So that's what latency means, and you're going to get some latent time. So this is how you use these sprocs. So let's move on to the third one here. The third one obviously is, well, I look at this one. Let me look at this one. The third one obviously is executing against the MSD database, which is a system database. And let's look at those and what kind of information it provides. Again, this is all informational. So now if I ran this against the job in MSD database, sysjobs, it'll tell you what kind of jobs are being executed. And obviously, since this is a primary server, we're going to be talking about the backup job. So you can look at the backup job and again, give it information about the backup job. If we were to execute the same script on the secondary server, we should get obviously the copy and restore jobs. And here we go. There's the copy and then the restore job. And then obviously this will tell you whether the jobs are failed or enabled. For example, steps here, enabled or not, and so on. So you can go through this yourself. But again, you keep an eye on this stuff. This will become a little more easier when you start doing SSRS, which is a reporting system, which I do. And in that particular case, when I do teach the reporting systems, I have all these scripts that allow me to dump all this in a table, and then actually it's emailed to me on a daily or weekly basis, depending on what I do, so I can keep on monitoring through that. But you should certainly do this on a daily basis if anything is going wrong, just to monitor it. So obviously these are a couple other things here. You can run these and look at the sys job history, look at the monitoring details, and obviously here on server 2, since we had errors, so you may want to look at these errors and determine what went wrong. In this case, obviously, you can't open the backup device for various reasons. And obviously, we fixed those problems. So you may want to look at this. And obviously, this would be problematic. And you want to try to discover why the backup job did not open, and it's usually a permission issue. So you may want to look at that also. Lastly, let me look at the last thing. Lastly, you can look at the SQL Server error logs themselves. So let's go over there. Oops, and let's go to Server 1 first. And here you can see if I execute this and execute it, you'll see obviously it gives me all the system logs for that particular server, in this case Server 1. And obviously since and we've gone through this before, reading the error log, the system error log here. And it gives you information about the Server 1 and anything here. And obviously this is mostly informational, so there's nothing to be alarmed about. But if we see anything that's problematic, then we would address it here. Same thing here. If we go back here, let me scroll up. And now obviously you can execute this against the restore. So obviously it's looking for any keyword for restore in the server error report, and that's where you're getting all this. So again, you would go through this one by one. So these are some of the ways and methods where you would monitor log shipping so you can be ahead of it. Remember, one of the most successful things about it being a production DBA is being proactive, and that's monitoring these on a daily basis. So if you have any errors, you can fix them before they become problematic. So I don't know what that happened there, but let's just undo it. And there we go. So that's some of the methods. So let's go back to here, and I think that's basically it. And obviously this one here, you can run on both servers. If you obviously running the error log for the keywords error, or you can find keywords shipping. So we can just copy this actually. And this one you can run on either one. This one we're running on the primary because obviously that's the backup job that we're concerned with. And on this one, we're running on the secondary server because we're concerned with the keywords restore. But this one, obviously, you can run on either one, and it'll give you some information. So let's run that on either one. Let's go on primary here. And let's execute this or paste it and do it one by one. So we want to know any errors in the error logs regarding this. And again, you would go through this and determine what kind of errors they are and try to determine it. Same thing with the keyword being shipping in the error log. And obviously you'll get a little more there because it's narrowing. So now obviously not everyone is an error, but this is just a log, remember. SQL Server logs these things, and this is what you're illustrating here. So it's not necessarily that you're finding errors, but if you do find errors, then you need to address them. So I think I'll leave it here because this is just a synopsis of how to monitor the servers and the different methods. Now, the one you choose is entirely up to you. Obviously, I tend to be more towards the T-SQL because that gives me a better understanding of what's. But this is a great tool here just to kind of visually see it and make sure. But the key thing to remember in monitoring is that you want to make sure that your backups are synced with your copy and restores. That's one of the key things you're looking for when you're monitoring log shipping. So make sure that the last copied and the last restores are comparable to the backup ones. And if they're not, just understand why. Obviously, there's going to be a disparity between the time that you set, and obviously you can do that when you're setting up log shipping. Generally, you want to leave it at default for 15 minutes to backup, and then after 15 minutes to copy, and then 15 minutes to restore, and that's fine. But if you adjust that, then make sure you understand this also. So long as these are in sync, comparable sync within 15 minutes, you're good, and then you don't have any problems with log shipping. So I think I'm going to leave it there, and we'll continue with the next video, which is we're going to start now. We're talking about database mirroring and the pros and cons of database mirroring. So I'll see you in the next video. So my name is Raphael, and this is how to become a production SQL database administrator. See you in the next video.